And I want to go straight to Tony Romanucci, as promised, one of the attorneys for the Floyd family. And Tony, I appreciate your coming on again. So the defense arguing today that when Floyd first yelled out, "I can't breathe," that it was a form of resisting arrest, right? So the suggestion was that this is just something people do and people say to bargain with officers to let them go. What was your reaction when you heard that argument?
Well, and that's all it is. It's an argument. It doesn't take away from the fact that the use of force here was excessive and it turned out to be deadly. Whether or not George was trying to get out of the situation he was in doesn't take away from the fact that Derek Chauvin kneeled on his neck for such a period of time as to cause his death. We know that he died from positional asphyxia. Everything else, including the drug use, that's just a defense. That's just something, a distraction in order for us to take the jury's attention away from what happened here.
Which I think it's significant how you answered that question and how you walk that line. I do. I wonder what it'll mean for the jury. I mean, today we heard prosecutors directly address another point, Tony, that the defense has been making repeatedly, right? And you've seen this, right? This whole question about Chauvin's knee, right? That they've been trying to move it at different times, right? That maybe it was on his shoulder blade when the ambulance arrived, not his neck. And maybe at another point it was on his shoulder blade, not exactly on his neck. So here's what they said today.
Is the risk related to the pressure on the neck or the pressure on the body?
This the pressure on the body. Any additional pressure on the body complicates breathing more so than if there was no pressure at all.
And so the placement of the knees, even if there can be shifting between the neck, the base of the neck, the point is that both of the defendant's knees were on Mr. Floyd's body during the entirety of the restraint period. Is that right?
Yes.
So, Tony, that was the prosecution, right? And you know, I'm not a lawyer, but what that sounds like they're trying to say is maybe admitting that the jury may have questions about Chauvin's knee not being on the neck the whole time. And they're trying to make the point, well, if it wasn't on there the whole time, it doesn't matter because this is still how he died. Why do you think they felt that they needed to do that? Did they do a good job? Do you think that that indicates there could be a fog on this crucial question with the jury? How do you interpret this?
I think we need to interpret it in totality here. If you look at the testimony from Friday into Monday, it really was watershed testimony in policing in America, I think, because you had police officers from within the department in which the officer is being accused of saying that the use of force was never trained that way, it wouldn't have been tolerated, and that it certainly was excessive and could cause death. So when you look at that testimony, the jury should look beyond any of these other distractions and key in on Chief Arredondo, who, like I said, never seen before in this country, and set an example for policing in America on this, cracking the blue line in the code of silence here by coming out and speaking against one of his own officers.
So let me ask you one other point. The expert witness from the LAPD today was asked about Floyd's initial resistance when officers were trying to get him into the squad car and whether there were more severe ways that Chauvin could have responded than he actually did. Here's the exchange.
Officer Chauvin, theoretically, based on what he saw, active resistance, he could have come up and dry stunned him or tased him. That would be within the active resistance, struggling use of force continuum.
Yes.
He didn't do that, right?
No, he did not.
Because sometimes an officer has to back down in their use of force, right?
In certain situations, yes.
So they're trying to say Chauvin actually held back on the use of force. Your response to that?
I don't buy it. Again, it's another distraction, Erin, because the death came when Chauvin was kneeling on him and the other officers were also kneeling on his back, causing him not to breathe, cutting off his circulation, cutting off his breathing, cutting off his airway. The fact that Chauvin didn't use a certain amount of force in order to subdue George before that has nothing to do with what caused his death. He didn't die when they were trying to subdue him when he was inside the car. He died when he was on the street and they tortured him, not only with the knee on the neck and the knees on the back, but also with small joint manipulation. This was a 9-minute and 29-second torture, a slow death that never should have happened. That knee never should have been on his neck or near it.
All right, Tony, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin.
And next